right, as you've heard on this program, no doubt, many times in the past, Family Research Council has been actively engaged in concerted efforts to try to raise awareness about the harm of the abortion drug mifepristone. In fact, members of the FRC team continue to strategically engage this for the purpose of trying to reveal the truth about what these drugs actually do. And obviously, that involves abortions that these drugs cause. But also, there's the other side of it of trying to save women from the dangerous side effects of these abortion drugs. And part of the effort that we're all engaged in has been calling on the Trump administration to take immediate and decisive action to end the Biden-era policies that have allowed these dangerous drugs to be trafficked across state lines. Well, pro-lifers, and you need to know this, pro-lifers are not the only ones who are calling for policy change. The other side is too. In fact, right now there are 3 pro-abortion citizen petitions that have gone to the FDA that we need to and will be speaking out against. And Dr. Chris Gacek, who's a senior fellow for regulatory affairs here at the Family Research Council, now joins me to discuss this. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
It's good to be with you. You know, the sort of chemical abortion, mifepristone area is where sort of all the action is. That's not completely true, but it's where the action is in sort of the abortion battle, because it's now about 60-70% of abortions are done with mifepristone. But you're absolutely right. So there are different levels of this. So I'm going to try and walk through this as best I can and quickly just try to give a general explanation for how all this is working. So remember that the FDA approves drugs for marketing and for sale in the United States. In other words, the drugs have to be safe and effective. They have a label. They can go into commerce under certain conditions. But that's all it is. It's just an approval of a drug, right? And so at the federal level, there is a lot of action going on right now with 3 pro-abortion, 3 pro-mifepristone petitions coming in. One just astonishingly from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, what's called ACOG. It's the professional organization of, you know, the sort of supposedly legitimate, medical profession. And they are just totally pro-abortion and are trying, along with GenBioPro, which is the generic maker of mifepristone, and along with the Massachusetts Attorney General, who is working in common with like Tish James of New York and other blue states. They've filed a separate petition, and all of these together are about, like 100 pages long. I mean, they're quite substantial documents, and they're really making an effort. But the general thrust of these documents and these petitions is to get FDA to relax the conditions or the safety restrictions, to eliminate safety conditions even further, so that you have such de minimis control over or sort of the ability of the federal government to have anything to say about the safety of the drug, that it's almost, you still would need a prescription, but it's telemedicine, it's all these sorts of things, so little oversight. Their sort of their mantra is that mifepristone is safer than Tylenol. I mean, this is how demented these people are. And by the way, there's recently a paper that's been published, I think it's pre-published, talking about how the fallacy of this whole comparison, right? But I just sort of mentioned that. So Jody, let me let you respond.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable that these petitions are out there trying to make this more accessible when already there's virtually no control, and it's going back and forth across state lines, even with states that prohibit such things. We actually, speaking of this, had Erin Hawley on earlier this week, and she was talking about one of these states, a legal win in West Virginia. Can you tell us a little bit, Chris, about the dynamics?
Well, so you're right, and this is what I was
state law and federal law?
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is what's sort of interesting about the dynamics here, because you have a federal-state set of relationships, right? So Erin Hawley was on, she gave a great interview about a great opinion out of the Fourth Circuit. Here's essentially what's going on. Remember, we're in this post-Roe versus Wade world set up by the Dobbs opinion from the Supreme Court, which basically said that in certain areas, of health and safety, the states have the jurisdiction to pass laws in this area, basically the way it was before Roe versus Wade. And so the state of West Virginia had passed a law. I mean, I don't know the full contours of the law, but basically restricting abortion very severely. And so GenBioPro, this company that is essentially taken up the mantle of the industry of the producers of mifepristone, because the Danco, the company that was originally allowed, is just a sort of a cutout and a kind of it doesn't really amount to much. So GenBioPro went into West Virginia and they essentially said that, and lawyers understand this, but they said that the federal approval kind of essentially preempts the ability of the states to regulate mifepristone. And so the Fourth Circuit came back this week. And remember, the federal government, when it has a law that conflicts with a state law on the same subject, it trumps the state law, right? So there's a supremacy clause in the Constitution.
We've got about 30 seconds, Chris.
Sure. So the opinion basically said, no, the states have the right to regulate on the matter of abortion, and the federal government only has to do with commercial products and the sort of the condition of sale of drugs. So basically what we have here is a standoff, and we need to have our folks just be aware that, go to your legislatures, make sure that your legislators make sure that they're passing pro-life state laws, and that asking them to sort of, help on your congressman to help on the federal level in dealing with federal restrictions and getting involved in that.